Today it's time for a professional match of Terran versus Terran, and we find ourselves on the current smallest map in the map pool. We find ourselves on Cyber Forest. Spawning here in the southeast corner of the map and playing with the red Terran SCVs. We are looking inside of the main base of TY, one of the strongest Terran players on the planet. And his opponent actually, likewise, I know some people are gonna give me a hard time for this, but seriously, his opponent likewise, one of the strongest players that we have in StarCraft 2. We are looking inside of the main base of Gumiho. Now, of course, I try and read as many YouTube comments as I possibly can, and I know that I get a lot of comments of people saying, Lowko, are you sure that this guy is also one of the strongest players? I mean, you've covered a lot of people, and you call a lot of them to be amongst the very best. Look, I used to be a little bit more liberal with me calling who was the very best in their respective races. I used to, I guess, include like the top 25 or so in their respective races. But I just quickly looked it up. When it comes to the top 4 Terran players in the world right now, we have Maru at 1, Innovation at 2, TY, the red Terran player right here, at 3, and Gumiho at 4. So I think I'm justified, okay? Considering they're both in the top 5 of their respective race, I think I am more than justified to consider them amongst the very best that we have in StarCraft. Let's see where this game is going to take us. Now, like I mentioned, we are on Cyber Forest. This map is, compared to, for example, like a Year Zero or like a King's Cove, much smaller. The rush distance between the two naturals especially is really not that long. You can make your way across quite quickly. And especially for TVT, right? There's a lot of these ledges and a lot of these high and low grounds. And as we've all seen Star Wars, right? We all know what the advantage of the high ground can be. It's very nice to have that high ground advantage, especially in siege tank-based battles. And of course, that's usually the unit that most of these mid-games in TVT are all about. Marine siege tank. It's got the nice tendency to clean up a lot of armies really quickly, but it's a very tough balance. Since siege tanks can actually shoot away further than they can see, you do need that air support as well to actually obtain that vision. It becomes a very technical matchup. I've said it time and time again. I love watching these pro gamers duke it out in this matchup. I don't really like playing this matchup as much because I'm just very bad at it. I mean, still Master League, I suppose, but I'm not very good at playing this matchup usually. At the very least, I always feel like I'm gambling a lot, you know? I'm like, well, I guess I hope he doesn't go Cloak Banshees. Or I guess I hope he doesn't just make a couple of Hellions and completely throw me for a loop. It's a very complicated matchup. Also because Terran can obviously, with the 1-1-1 opener, right? What we see right here for Gumiho, he goes for 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport. If you get a tech lab, you can essentially get all units that you like within like the first 5 minutes. I mean, other than maybe battle cruisers and like some of the late game upgrades, you can get such a big amount of variety in units that it's really difficult to predict where the game is going to go. Nice little bit of harassment right here from Gumiho. Not really losing anything just yet. Neither player, though, really losing anything. But at the very least, he gets a little bit of damage done on that command center. Might come into play a little while later, but obviously he's at the very least forcing this Cyclone to come out. And that's what it's all about as well. You don't really want your opponent to just switch into that really high tech as quickly as possible. So just forcing out a Cyclone right now is already a little bit of a nuisance. And look, this is what I mean, right? Gumiho knows the timing that the Cyclone should be out, and he decides to head on back home before he loses anything to the Cyclone lock-on. And the only way you learn these kind of timings is by losing a lot of times to just a single Cyclone. You basically learn by failing miserably, and eventually it turns out you're a really good Terran player. Anyways, quick third base right here from TY. We don't see anything along those lines here for Gumiho. So that does mean that Gumiho is likely going to be the one who will be forced to get aggressive. He needs to make sure that he puts on the pressure. Ooh, great scout there actually by TY. I'm pretty sure he did get the sneak right there on that medevac. But it's really important that this third base doesn't go punished right now for Gumiho, as if he decides to sit back for too long, he's going to be in a lot of trouble, because those mules, they do add up really quickly. TY trying to actually get the medevac right there. Not gonna happen just yet, as a siege tank does unload. There's already a siege tank though for TY as well. But it looks like, actually, wow, Gumiho decides to commit. That medevac is extremely low on hit points. He does get the snipe right there on the Cyclone. A lot of damage right here is already being done, as we have some excellent drop micro right here as well. The SCVs though, capable of repairing that siege tank back up. And even though, obviously, Siege Tank can't shoot at point blank, right? And unsieged tanks can, Gumiho manages to pick up the Siege Tank, or this unsieged tank, rather, in the nick of time to get it to safety in that very low hit point Medivac. Very dicey opener right there from Gumiho, though, right? That could have been a disaster if that just went a little bit differently. I mean, for me, for example, I would have lost both the Siege Tank, then loaded up, like, all of my units into the Medivac, and then also lose the Medivac, you know? That would have been my micro right there. And the only way you can practice that kind of thing is by doing it 1,000 times and eventually recognizing the scenario at which you can commit to a push like that. Third command center, though, will be coming up right here for Gumiho. Obviously, TY defending that without taking critical losses. He's going to be the one who gets this nice little economic advantage. Even as a Viking right now patrolling around, just in case there would be some sort of air unit moving in right now for Gumiho. Like, for example, if the Raven decided to feel a little bit cheeky, this Raven right here for Gumiho, or if he decided to go for like a Banshee play, he could pick that up and get a couple of free shots in before the unit made its way towards that mineral line. Alrighty. Now, I personally am a big fan of seeing that, like, mech versus bio mid-game. Likely not gonna happen here, as actually both players are looking to move out here. Yeah, we see Stimpack coming up on both sides, so it's definitely gonna be that Marine tank here in the mid-game. I personally am really partial to the Siege Tank-based armies versus, like, the Marine-based armies. I always think it's kind of a fun dynamic. But both players apparently are trying to outsmart each other right now, waiting for the other one to go through this bottom section as they both take control of the high ground. This is one of the things that Star Wars never covered, okay? What if both people have the high ground? How does that work out? I have no idea. One hero Marine, though, feeling brave enough to stim forward and move across the map, scouted out that indeed a third base is taken, and apparently this is enough right now for Gumiho to return back as well. There's that one Raven still hanging out. There's another Marine is gonna move across. He needs to be careful, though. Losing a Raven for free would be very, very painful. But obviously Ravens are quite beefy units, and while apparently TY is feeling brave enough, he decides to siege up. Immediately the auto turrets do get thrown down as well. Gumiho is gonna end up losing the one Raven, decides to not actually siege up his own tanks. Interestingly enough, the damage output of an unsieged tank is actually higher than that of a siege tank, and once again he's gonna drop the tanks. Oh my god, he's doing some really cool drop micro with unsieged tanks. He's gonna be able to essentially clean up 3 tanks with 2. Is that what just happened there? He just cleaned up 3 siege tanks with 2 siege tanks and a Medivac. What a cool move. So the thing is, and this is especially true the lower you go up on the ladder, a lot of people consider siege tanks to only be useful when they are sieged up. However, single target damage of a tank unsieged is actually higher than a tank who's sieged. The advantage of siege mode is that obviously it can shoot really far away, plus it has that splash damage advantage as well. However, if you unsiege a tank, you can also pick it up with a Medivac, so if you've got really good control like Gumiho does, you can get so much value out of this. He also apparently knows the timing at which the 4th command center should go up, and with that he should be able to get himself a force cancel right there on the command center. Although I say that, there's a lot of Terran units ready to defend. The command center does get cancelled there, and I think that Gumiho should be able to, at the very least, evacuate the majority of those units out of there as well. 4th command center right now coming up for the Terran player in blue as well, and I gotta say, I love the way that Gumiho is playing this, though. It's such a cool style, such a cool way of playing. Anyways, TY though, he's mostly really scary when it comes to playing that macro game. This is a bit of a cheeky play right here for Gumiho, right? He's trying to get a little bit more value and do some cool moves with the micro, and obviously the fans, including myself, absolutely love that kind of play. What makes TY scary though is that he's extremely good at playing macro. He's very good at just simply producing a lot of stuff and playing that really solid laid-back unit composition. Now, so far, he is taking quite a bit of damage, but I think actually in overall trades, should we have a look? Yeah, he actually is certainly behind there, but he has been mining a little bit more than his opponent as well. So it really doesn't mean that he's in a terrible position here. Supply count's a little bit in favor of Gumiho, but I think that the 4th command center should still finish up here at a reasonable time for TY, and he's going to be able to continue mining and continue getting all of those researches as well. 2-2 is a little bit faster right here for Gumiho, which is nice. But TY is still trying to make sure that he gets into a good position. Now, once again, that high ground advantage right here for Gumiho is going to be absolutely massive. As right now, the Marines stim down. They do manage to kill the tank, although the tank did get the final shot off right there on the tank on the high ground as well. Vikings coming up here for TY. There's really not that many of them available just yet. Now the siege tank does get picked off right here by the Stint Marines. They now decide to retarget fire down a couple of those Vikings. Gumiho decides to load up the medevac once again and drop the Marines onto that high ground. But now he's got a good position where I think he can actually continue slow pushing here for a little while longer. And this is a difficult fight to take. I mean, that siege tank is the one thing that right now gives TY that high ground vision, right? If the siege tank, or rather if the Viking wasn't here, I may have said siege tank earlier, but anyways, if the Viking wasn't here, that would have been a disaster right now for TY. It's still a rough spot. If this, oh my god, that's a big deal actually. Just losing that right now is a big deal. We see a switch right now for TY into Liberators. I love that. Liberators obviously can force the unsiege of those tanks on the high ground, but already Marines decided to drop down and they managed to get a nice connection there with that tank. A lot of them did end up paying for it with their lives as well, but yeah, the third command center is now forced to get lifted up as the siege tanks were shelling away at it for quite a little bit of time as well. Gumiho right now though feeling brave enough. Apparently he wants to start knocking down the rocks on his opponent's side of the map. Liberator moving forward. Marines are going to be in range right there, but the siege tank also in range. Although it turns out the Liberator will be picked off. The rocks will now go down as well. Once again, a couple Marines are stepping forward. They will be able to go after that Liberator up in the air. Siege tanks from the back, though. There's a lot of them, TY. I don't know if you want to commit right here. He kind of has to. And eventually, he will be able to push that army composition back. But you know what? I kind of thought he would lose most of those SCVs there. I think in the end, that worked out okay for TY. What a fight. Okay, so let's have a look once again at units lost. Even though it was pretty heavily in favor right there of Gumiho for a little while, right now it's actually the blue Terran player who's lost a little bit more minerals, but a little bit less gas. Considering both players got their fourth bases up and running, we are in a very even game. Planetary fortresses are taken on either side of the map. It's going to be difficult to push into that area. Although once again, right, you can abuse those high grounds and low grounds really nicely. It takes the Marines about a split second to get the advantages right now, right? To knock down a planetary fortress if you're out of position. TY though, this time around, okay, he recognizes the scenario he's in. He's like, you know what? You've been slow pushing me left and right this game. You probably want to do so once again as well. I'm going to load up 2 medevacs and I'm going to try and see if I can deal some damage. Gumiho, though, did scan right now, and he knows that a lot of those Terran Marines are missing, but it's difficult to get the engagement. That's a lot of siege tanks. Do you really want to stim forward and try and get that fight? Probably not, although it's still a difficult decision to make. Medevacs actually currently rallied all the way towards the main base. The sensor tower right here should not be able to spot that, but the supply depot will see indeed that these units are making their way towards the main base. But the question is Gumiho even paying attention to that right now? Is he even paying attention to that right now? He's slowly moving forward, trying to get an angle here, but the Liberators will be able to make their way on top of those tanks as well. And I think with that, Gumiho is going to be forced to retreat as well. TY, though, smelling blood in the water, he's actually stimming a lot of Marines inside the opponent's main base. He could actually commit to this right now. He could commit to this right now if he really wants to, with all of those tanks on siege. Liberators moving forward once again. Eventually, those Marines are forced to get picked up inside of that medevac, but at the same time, Gumiho advanced towards the low ground, decided to siege up the tank and tried to test the waters there to bait those Marines into the line of fire. Eventually, though, the medevacs right there will be picked off. Good pickup there for Gumiho. But apparently now TY has got that positional advantage. He might very well decide to push through the center of the map. And I think he wants to do exactly that. A lot of the units right here for Gumiho are caught on the left-hand side. Still, though, this is a really sick concave that's naturally being set up right now for those Marines in blue. TY gonna sit right here. Do you want to go through the choke? You don't want to go through the Terran meat grinder, Gumiho. Woo! That would have been minced Marine right there. Those siege tanks were ready to mince. It's like you're in the butcher shop right now, as we have a bit of a stare down from one top of the hill to the other top of the hill. Okay, I love this. Gumiho transitioning right now towards the advanced ballistics upgrade. We don't have that just yet here for TY. Advanced ballistics is really, really nice because it gives those Liberators additional ranged. This is still, though, at some point they're gonna have to clash, right? Yeah. This is not really the fight that TY wants to take, as Gumiho stims all of his Marines moves forward, but There's no way that that 5th base will be acquired just yet. 5th command center right now coming up here for TY. This is an extremely close game so far. It's leading up, though, to breaking point, right? We all recognize that at some point this fight is gonna have to happen one way or another, and I think that Gumiho might very well try to force the issue right now. Manages to get 2 of those siege tanks for pretty much free, breaks that middle of the map position right here for TY as well. And the Marines, they decide to run away once again, although they do once again have to activate their stim pack, and with that lose quite a lot of hit points. Gumiho has got a lot of siege tanks, but in a bit of an awkward position. It looks like TY is the one who wants to make a bit of a move forward. Obviously, you can always get vision as well without air units by just simply utilizing scan. But every time you see a scan go down, that's like 300 minerals down the drain. But with both players now maxed out, I kind of like this position for TY a little bit better. Siege tanks trying to get a good fight. One of the Liberators there will get picked off, but a lot of the units, though, for Gumiho managed to engage right there from the left as well as the right-hand side. Now, also, we have those blue Liberators joining in the fray. The Marines decide to stim forward. A lot of them will get picked off, though. Liberators do end up getting picked off, too. But the question is, was that not a little bit too much damage right there for TY? Alright, we see a Thor coming up right now for our red Terran player too. More Liberator production here for Gumiho. He's now producing 5 at once. That's actually a lot. Once again, man, these players need to be so careful with this, like, choke in the center. This is such a tough position to break. Are you really gonna go through that choke right here in the center? I don't know if you want to do that. Yeah, knocking down the rocks, it may be about time. One of those tanks literally at, like, okay, 4 hit points. I was gonna say 1, but literally at 4. Okay, so we saw 1 skirmish, didn't actually achieve that much. Both players once again maxed out, but Gumiho once more wants to move forward and break that high ground position, and he manages to do so really nicely. Stimming forward into a big amount of siege tanks is obviously tough. Stimming forward into like 2 or 3, I guess that's doable. Liberators right now, though, they are up in high numbers. Vikings obviously are also available, and with Gumiho having that air control, he should be able to get that positioning right there on his Liberators as well. How many Liberators does he have? He's got 5 right now. Yeah, they're all over here. So if he manages to get those Vikings out of the equation, those Liberators that he's got should be able to get a really good connection on most of those siege tanks. And here we go. Gumiho is indeed going to start sieging forward with some of those Liberators. Ooh, TY recognizes the scenario that he's in. Right now, Marines are stimming forward as well. They're trying their very best to get some kills on those SCVs. At the same time, TY decides to go for a drop on the other side of the map. He decides to unload most of the Medivacs right now on top of some of those siege tanks right here and around the 4th base of Gumiho. Still, though, most of those Liberators are still up and running. And with now those Marines able to get underneath the Vikings, it is indeed Gumiho who manages to break this defensive position of TY. He manages to deflect the drop at home, and with that, he manages to get on top of the red Terran's production. And that's kind of like the heart of the Terran army, right? If you manage to get on top of the Terran production, that's when you manage to get to that soft underbelly. That's where you want to strike. And it turns out Gumiho is the one who obtains the victory. I hope you enjoyed watching this game. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, of course, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notifications as soon as I upload more. Also, make sure to hit the bell icon so you get notifications on your phone and whatnot whenever I do post another video. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Links are down below for all of these in the description of the video. And on top of that, I noticed a lot of people have no idea that I actually live stream on Twitch as well. I stream Monday through Saturday, 2 to 8 p.m. CEST. So I stream about, I would say, 30 to 40 hours or so every single week. So in case you're interested, that's twitch.tv/LowkoTV. And no, by the way, this is not a new thing. I know some people sometimes join the Twitch stream and are like, hey, Lowko, I'm here from YouTube. I had no idea you streamed. It's like, well, no, I've been streaming full time for basically 3 years now. I've been doing so for a very long time. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you once again tomorrow for another video.